Hi YouTubers, it's Smoking X1087, coming to you from the downstairs again. Finally, part 1 in series of myths. Yes, series of myths. This is the first myth we're going to debunk or test. Not test, but we're going to talk about the myth. Now, I remember a couple years ago, Pipe did something similar to this with pipes. I think he had one video where he smoked catnip, another video where he tried to smoke a pipe upside down, some other video. But this series is going to be a little different. We're going to talk about common myths about tobacco in general. Some of them are about pipes, other ones about cigars. Only about pipes and cigars. There are no myths about hookahs or smokeless tobacco or cigarettes. Only pipe tobacco and cigars, and tobacco in general. So, this is the first myth. Can you overdose on nicotine? Yes. So, can you overdose on nicotine? Yes, you can. Now, let me talk a little bit about it. All tobacco, cigarettes, cigarillos, little cigars, pipe tobacco, hookah tobacco, chew, dip, snooze, snuff, all contains nicotine in different levels. For example, pipe tobacco is fairly low in nicotine, generally. However, there's some pipe tobaccos that are very high in nicotine. Cigars have moderately low levels of nicotine. Hookah tobacco has low nicotine. Chew and dip have pretty high contents of nicotine. Snooze is very high in nicotine, or can be. Snuff is low in nicotine generally. Cigarettes have a fair amount of nicotine in them, or actually quite a bit. Cigarillos, I'm not sure, but anyway, can you overdose on nicotine? Yes, you can. It's called nicotine poisoning, and basically what nicotine does to you, and I've talked about it before, is when you smoke tobacco and you ingest nicotine, even if you're not inhaling, if you don't inhale when you smoke, you absorb the nicotine through your tongue and your mouth and your saliva and your gums. There's membranes in your mouth where you absorb nicotine. Also, there's membranes in your nose where you can exhale through your nose or use snuff. So, you can absorb nicotine through your nose. Also, you can absorb nicotine through your lungs if you inhale, as in a cigarette. So, now, in general, the fastest way to absorb nicotine is through your lungs, with any drug. The second fastest would be intravenous, which would be injecting. Obviously, you can't inject nicotine. Well, you could, but I wouldn't recommend it, because that's very dirty. So, the third quickest way would be absorbing through your nose, and the last quickest way would be, the slowest way would be through your mouth. So, now, nicotine lowers your blood sugar. So, when you ingest nicotine, it slowly lowers your blood sugar. That's why when you smoke like a strong pipe tobacco like Irish Flake, or 1792 Flake, or rope tobacco, or full Virginia Flake, you feel a little dizzy, you feel like a little lightheaded, especially if you haven't smoked a pipe in a long time, or if it's your first time smoking a pipe or cigar. So it can make you feel a little dizzy, lightheaded. So you do get what's called nicotine poisoning. Now, to actually die from nicotine poisoning, you would have to smoke a lot of tobacco before you die. The LD50 of nicotine, which is lethal dose of nicotine, lethal doses by drugs are measured in what's called LD50s. I'm not a scientist, I don't know a lot about it. But according to a video I watched, it was actually a video on marijuana, but it was a video on marijuana, and apparently nicotine is lethal at a slightly higher dose than marijuana. So you're slightly more likely to overdose on nicotine than marijuana, or THC. So, what would probably happen if you say you want to overdose, for some weird reason. I don't recommend you do this, and I'm not liable if anything happens. But, say you want to overdose. What would happen is, you would start feeling headaches, kind of like with alcohol. You would start getting dizzy and lightheaded. Then you would start getting nauseous a little bit, and you would start to sweat. You get cold sweats. Your face will get all clammy and cold. You would get very cold, and then you would start throwing up. You would actually start puking, and you start puking even more. You'd get even more nauseous. You'd start to get really shaky, and eventually you pass out. Now, how would you die? This is a pretty grave topic. How would you actually die from nicotine poisoning? Well, I'm not a scientist, and I really don't know that for a fact. I don't know actually. I don't actually know exactly how you would die, but I have a good guess. I have an educated guess. I can take an educated guess. Number one, you might have a massive heart attack. So you might have a massive heart attack. Number two, you would go into cardiac arrest. So you would pass out and go into cardiac arrest. Just like people do when they execute people through lethal injection. So number three, you would go into a coma and you stop breathing. So that's how you would die probably from nicotine poisoning. But again, you would have to smoke a lot of tobacco before you die. Probably for cigarettes, because cigarettes are by far the most common form of tobacco consumption that are used today in the modern world. You would probably have to smoke 3, 4, 5 packs of cigarettes in probably an hour to get a lethal dose. But you wouldn't want to do it. I mean, it would be a very unpleasant way to die. Very, very unpleasant. It would be a horrible way to die. But so just tips to avoid nicotine poisoning: keep your blood sugar up. Because it's basically like going to diabetic shock. So you keep your blood sugar up. Drink sugar water, fruit punch, Coca-Cola, anything that Mountain Dew, anything that has sugar in it, and even put a little bit of sugar under your tongue. So, but that's a myth. It's possible, however, it's very unlikely. So that's the myth number one. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will talk about myth number two pretty soon. Tomorrow probably. Peace out, bye.